Joseph Caiaphas was the high priest in Jerusalem at the time of Jesus. It was a difficult and dangerous time. Every day, Caiaphas faced the same delicate problem. He struggled to preserve all he could of Jewish national sovereignty. And yet, he must never allow the Romans who occupied Judea to be provoked.
Caiaphas had a lot on his mind. Caiaphas always had a lot on his mind. Today, he had called a meeting of the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court of the Jews. A preacher from the north called Jesus had been gathering crowds of followers. Some thought Jesus was the Messiah and would become king. Now it was reported that he had raised a man from the dead. Something must be done. But the Sanhedrin was confused. What shall we do? This man works many miracles. If we let him alone like this, everyone will follow him. And then the Romans will come and take away our sovereignty. We must do something. Caiaphas seemed to have the answer. It is better for one man to die for the people, rather than see the whole nation destroyed. Jesus must not be allowed to continue. He must be arrested and executed, perhaps during the religious festival of the Passover. As Jesus came to Jerusalem, the people started to shout that he was king, the Messiah, the son of David. Some of the Pharisees protested, but Jesus rebuked them. It was exactly what Caiaphas had feared. What could they do? Perhaps it was too late. But then the problem with Jesus took an unexpected turn. One of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, was willing to betray him. If they tried to arrest Jesus during the daytime, people might try to defend him. But Judas would lead the temple guards to take him at night. Judas expected to be paid for his help, but 30 shekels of silver seemed a fair price. One of the old Jewish prophets had said, "They weighed for my price 30 pieces of silver." But nobody seemed to remember. Jesus was on trial for blasphemy. Caiaphas opened the case. "If you are the Christ, the Messiah, tell us. If I tell you, you will certainly not believe me. And if I ask you a question, you will not give me an answer." Caiaphas called for witnesses, and these were brought into the court. If the council did not find clear evidence against Jesus, then according to Jewish law, he must be acquitted. The witnesses spoke against him, but they contradicted each other, and Jesus remained silent. This could go on, and time was slipping away. Again, the council seemed uncertain of what to do next. Most people were overawed by the Supreme Court. Just being on trial made many men tremble. But Jesus was not impressed. Caiaphas had one more option: to put Jesus under oath and ask him directly. "I put you under oath by the living God, that you tell us whether you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "I am." "He has spoken blasphemy." "And in the future you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of God and coming on the clouds of heaven." What further need do we have of witnesses? Look, now you have heard his blasphemy. The Sanhedrin did not execute Jesus, but his claim to be the Messiah was taken to the Romans as a political crime, and they crucified him. When the Roman soldiers took the clothes of Jesus, they did not tear up his tunic. Instead, they played a game of dice for it. About 1,000 years earlier, David, the king and prophet, had written these words, "They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots." During the Passover festival, Caiaphas was allowed to wear his ceremonial robes, which were usually kept under lock and key by the Romans. The neck of the blue robe could never be torn, as it was written about the high priest in the law of Moses, "You shall not tear your clothes." At the trial of Jesus, Caiaphas had forgotten this.
Caiaphas himself had said it is better that one man should die for the people, and yet he did not see what was happening. Even when he tore his robes, he didn't seem to understand he'd broken a commandment of God. His mind was focused on just one thing, to maintain the delicate balance of power between the Jews and the Romans. Was that important? Well, yes, it was. But something else was happening, and he couldn't see it. Of course, it's easy for us to blame Caiaphas, but we too can fix our attention on what seems important and fail to hear the voice of God, especially when it cuts across our own ideas.